assume not, because it's doing the whole like location thing with the app. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you can just turn it on when you get in. And turn it off whenever you.
Because you can see on the home it says, for my Synergence business, I've done 1,351 miles. My personal miles are 3,182. So I just move everything that's not Synergence to personal. Like if I ran to the doctor or whatever, I went to my office, that obviously isn't Synergence. Another girl tried to argue with me and say, she didn't argue, but she's just like, well, I have a setup at my office. Does that count as? I was like, you can try to argue that, but the IRS has commuting laws. It's meaning that, so for example, my boyfriend, that's a 1099, he writes off his mileage, right? But so if he goes to his office to go pick up work before he goes out to like whatever courthouse he's going to, he cannot deduct the mileage from his house to his office because that's a normal course of business thing that you have to do. So they will allow him to deduct mileage from his office to the courthouse because you had to get to the office no matter what. It's kind of the same thing. You want to know why they only let you do 50% of meals and entertainment? You have to eat. The IRS is not going to let you deduct every single thing that you eat, right? So that's that equitable thing coming into play there.
So like my supply store for beauty products is literally right next door to my salon. Mm-hmm. So I drive to the supply store technically every day.
Yeah.
So do you think I'm able to actually claim that mileage every single day to and from my house, or is it from next door?
If it was me, I would say no, because that's playing in the gray.
Mm-hmm.
It's your
beauty in Edmond.
It's your.
There's one in they're everywhere, but mine, the one I go to is in Nichols Hills. It's literally like right.
It's your choice on how you do this. Yeah. This is why I'm saying I'm not your paid tax professional, and I'm not going to advise you any other way. I know clients that will sit there and try to deduct everything, and I'm like, that's just not how this rolls. And we fired clients over that. I'm like, I'm not doing this. It's shady. I don't want to do it. It's your decision.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're still following. That's still, you have to go to your salon every day. That's a commuting thing. Like, it'd be the same. Like, for example, if I drive from my house to my office downtown, I'm not going to deduct that. But then I go from my office and I meet Sylvia for lunch to give her some colors that we traded. From my office to lunch with her and back is deductible.
Mm-hmm. So your office is practically like home at that point?
Yes.
Okay.
From where you start to where you end. And
yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I usually only do like in between things. Now, for example, yesterday I did a launch party in Moore. I deducted from my house all the way to her place in Moore and back because I didn't need to go there for anything else. I went there to go launch her. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it just, it's very gray there for people on that, saying how you decide to do it. I mean, you've got people at one end of the spectrum, like my boyfriend, who wants to write off every single dinner he has with me because we talk about taxes or something, to people that, like, I follow kind of more by the rules. That's just me. Because they always tell us, like, when I took my reg section, it's like, when you prepare tax returns, you don't, as a CPA, you're not supposed to question, so what's the likelihood my client will get audited? That's not what you're supposed to, because that's not you being ethical. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, okay, so that's like your mileage and stuff like that. Contract labor, that's if you paid someone to do something for you. For example, me and Jane, we do like the lip sync sheet. I actually paid someone to help us kind of put them together and everything like that. That'd be contract labor. Depletion.
So, number 10.
Yeah, commissions and fees. That's more of like, I'm trying to think of how I would do this. Okay, so for example, me and Jane, we do our lip sheets together, right? We split 50-50 profit of whatever we make off those sheets. What I pay to her is her commission. That's what I'm deducting. Because I'm picking up all the income myself on my return. All that's going to be stuck into here. And I paid her half of the thing. That's her commission off of the product that we sold. Does that make sense? That's what commission is. Not commission, your commission check percentage.
Yeah.
Commission check percentage goes on line 1. Okay. Contract labor is if you pay someone to do something for you, whether it's like putting stickers on your bottles or whatever like that. If you decide to pay that, I would recommend you writing checks. It's good to have a paper trail when it things like that. It's good to just not give cash to everything. I write checks for everything. I know it's very old school. Depletion, you will not worry about. That has to do with oil and gas and things like that. Depreciation. This would be if you bought like a computer specifically for Synergence, you would have to depreciate it over a certain time because like it depends on how much it was. Usually if it's under $500, you can just expense it immediately. By law, you can do that because that's the tangible asset regulations that we just passed 2 years ago. But let's say you bought a MacBook because you needed a computer specifically for syndicates. But be careful with that. You can't be going on there on Facebook. You can be going on there shopping. It's supposed to be strictly for the business. That is how that works.
But if you're doing your business page on Facebook,
that's true. That would work. I am actually planning on deducting half of my cell phone bill on this because I'm going to say my cell phone, the service and everything for it, 50% is personal because I have to use it to text my friends and call stuff. But I use my phone to do all my postings on Facebook, to take my pictures, to do all that stuff. So legitimately, 50% of that is for the business use. Now, there's some people like, well, I'm gonna just take all 100. Well, can you really argue that your cell phone's 100% business unless you have a specifically separate line? You know what I'm saying? My boyfriend actually does that. He actually has 2 cell phones. He has a Verizon and an AT&T. His Verizon, he writes off 100%. His AT&T, he does 50. And the reason why he has that is because when he's in Podunk, Oklahoma, he doesn't get service because he's always in these small courthouses and things like that. But that's what depreciation is. But most people are not going to be buying a lot of stuff. Like, I actually bought an iPad specifically for Senegence, and it only has all the Senegence stuff on there because when I go to parties, I want to just, because I hate, look at my phone, look at these pictures, and just, I didn't want to do that. So my iPad is specifically for Senegence, only has Senegence stuff on there. The whole thing's getting written off. So that's what that is. You won't need anything for 14. If you happen to have insurance, I think Senegence actually, don't they give you like an insurance thing? Like if you want to insure your product, that's what you would put there. If you buy like an umbrella policy, like if you're really like up there and you're trying to insure your business and your assets and things like that, that's what would be with the insurance line. Interest. You wouldn't have a mortgage one, but you probably would have other. If you have a credit card that you only use for Senegence to buy your product and this and that, and let's say you're getting interest on that credit card because you didn't pay it off this month, you can write off that interest. Now, you can't just do it on a card that you go and buy other stuff on it too, because it's the whole separation of business and personal. You got to be very careful with that. That's the whole reason why I decided to go get a separate bank account, because I cannot stand to have everything ran through my personal, because then I don't know what's actually the money I can spend, because I don't know. So, yes.
So, if we were to get a separate card, do we use that for also our meals that we do, like for everything, like what we buy and our meals and gas?
If it's strictly just your business stuff, yes. And that's actually what I did. I got a separate bank account because I was having everything deposited in my account, and I was like, I don't even know how much this is really mine, because I was trying to like buy more stock, and I was like, I don't want to run it, like, well, I gotta pay my rent, so how am I gonna do that? So I got a separate business account. That's where all of my income kind of sits in for like sales and stuff like that goes in there. I run all my expenses on a specific credit card. When I go to dinner with her and we talk about business, it runs on that credit card or runs through my business account, just to keep it separate. And it's actually better for tracking purposes at the end of the year, because you just have to look at that one account. You don't have to go and look at 5 different accounts. Well, I put on this card and my bank account. You know what I'm saying?
How do you decide how much to put into that business account for expenses?
I run all my expenses on the credit card.
Okay.
And then I take the money out of my business account to pay it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so do you take money out of your checking and put it into your business account when you know how much you're going to be paying on your credit card? Is what I'm asking. Like, how do you know how much to have in your business
I have a business checking. Okay. And so all my income from Senegence, my commission checks go in there. All of my
and then you make yourself a paycheck to your personal checking account, and that's what you use to buy everything else?
No, I buy it on a credit card. And then, so basically, this is how it looks like. So I have my bank account, and it has, let's just say I had $10,000 worth of sales, right? It all just sits in my personal, not my personal, my business checking account. Then I have a credit card, and this is why I recommend, I know people are like against credit cards, and the reason why I do a credit card is because I actually get points, and I actually paid for our entire Cancun trip off of my credit card points, so that's why I did that. I have a Southwest card, and so I do all my stock purchases on there. I do all of my meals, everything that, like if I go to dollar store to get this and that, and then I total it all up to like, and then it'll total up because let's say if I spent $500, then I just have that business checking account pay that credit card.
But what if you don't have enough money? I think what she's saying is in the beginning, some of these girls don't have enough money in that business account to pay.
Yeah.
Do you pay from your personal to your business and then write from your business to pay the credit?
I know it seems redundant to do that, but I do that for the paper trail.
I just did that when I just started a month ago, and I put $500 from my personal checking account into my business account just so I had something in there. My first order, I spent, the 600 and something, so I only really paid 300. And then as I made money after my first couple of orders, I reimbursed my personal account back 500 and back whatever I paid originally